Well, the main reason is while you may like those nuclear weapons and feel secure with them right now, in a world where more and more actors have them, you're going to feel less secure. And so if the price you have to pay to reduce the chance that other neighbors or other bad guys are going to get these things is you have to give up yours, then that's something that you ought to consider. And that's really the bargain from the standpoint of the states that already have them is, we'll be better off if no one else gets them. Now, the non-nuclear weapon states, I mean, in their view, in most cases when people in the U.S. or other weapon states struggle with the idea of getting rid of nuclear weapons, people in countries that have never had them say, hey, welcome to my world, pal. You'll get used to it. It's fine. Come on over. They're not that sympathetic to, kind of all the hand-wringing we do about how can you live without nuclear weapons. There are some paradoxes because one of the ways that you could fast forward this process is if these weapons are actually used. And if nuclear weapons go off in a city or a couple of cities, that could create kind of a wave of horror and outrage that would greatly speed up the process. The flip side is nuclear weapon could be used on a battlefield someplace and lead to the conclusion, gee, these things really work, they're cool. Now, lots of people want them, and at that point, going to zero is going to be much more difficult, and you're trying to manage a competition. So from the way things look today, yes, it would take a long time. We have to go through many steps, but history can throw kind of curveballs that kind of warp our time continuum. The first step, if this is a long-term process, the first step has to be that the U.S. and Russia and the U.S. and China, as the two competitors that really drive this field, and also the three that in the Security Council don't really agree on enforcement issues and on the use of force, they have to come into convergence. Because if the U.S. and Russia and China are still competing and pushing against each other, they're not going to agree to lower their nuclear weapons much further. They're not going to agree on how to deal with countries like Iran in the Security Council. They're not going to agree how to manage ballistic missile defenses. And without those kind of agreements, this whole process of going towards zero just stops. The reason to work on this issue, as far as I'm concerned, is nuclear weapons are really, really dangerous. They're the only way in which unimaginable numbers of people can be destroyed in seconds. And if you want to prevent the likelihood or reduce the likelihood of that, you have to deal with the proliferation issues and disarmament, and that's the only way to do it. Now, somebody might say, well, it's hopeless or it's not possible. So my other reason is I don't want to live in a species, I don't want to live in a world where people aren't trying at least to figure out if we can live without these kind of destructive weapons. It almost doesn't matter if you can succeed or not, but to imagine a world in which you had these kind of weapons and nobody was saying, gee, can't we live without them? That's not a world I want to live in.